Good morning, and welcome to the Growth and Thriving Morning Mindset. I'm your host, Dr. Jerry Sunshine Novak, the biker psychologist. And today, I'd like to talk to you about the power of imagery, the power of mental rehearsal. Um, I generally bump into people in discussing this area who come from one of two camps. There's either people who feel like, or at least seem to feel like, uh, mental rehearsal or imagery, imagining the things you want, sort of make those things magically appear, right? They create vision boards and sort of very frequently will cite the law of attraction, the universal law of attraction. And the idea is if you think about what you want, the universe will deliver it to you. The other camp are people who typically think that is nonsense and that spending time imagining the things that you want in life is a waste of time, right? And you roll up your sleeves and you work on those things, um, and trying to imagine it is not going to deliver it. So let's look at what do the data say, right? There's some research on this, and what does it tell us about the importance of mental imagery? Um, so the the first place I go with this is there was a study at I think University of Chicago, done with basketball players, and um, they took basketball players, split them into three groups. One of them, they what they did first was they took the whole pool of basketball players, the whole sample, and measured them on successful free throws. So they would see generally how many free throws somebody could make. And then they split them randomly into three groups. They told one group to have no practice whatsoever. No, don't touch a basketball, don't think about basketball. Just for the next couple of weeks, you go about your life, and basketball's not part of it. The second group were told to practice free throws for some period of time every day, a half hour a day or something. The third group was instructed to not practice free throws at all, but to just spend a half hour a day imagining themselves shooting successful free throws. So they would spend a half hour a day just on the imagining what it would feel like, what it would look like to throw successful free throws. And at the end of the time period, they had them all throw free throws again and measure their success like they did in the beginning and compare it to baseline. So what do they find? As you might expect, the control group, the one that was instructed to do no practice of any sort, did not improve at all from their baseline free throw. The group that was instructed to practice for a half hour a day improved by 24%. Here's what's interesting. The group that was instructed to mentally rehearse, to imagine throwing free throws for a half hour a day, but not actually do it. So they didn't physically practice once, just in their mind. They improved by 23%. So just a percentage point lower than the group that was actually practicing the free throws. So what's the takeaway from this? The first thing is that what they call deep mental rehearsal. Other people might call it visualization, right? Visualization of what you want does matter, and it does produce results. However, there are some conditions. Um, the first condition is that the visualization works better. You get better results from it when it is a process oriented visualization and not an outcome oriented visualization. So, for example, um, people like the basketball players, when they are imagining or visualizing free throws, they get the best results if they imagine the whole process of standing at the free throw line, dribbling the ball once or twice, softening their knees, focusing on the net, and going through the motion of rolling the ball off the fingers as you drive the ball upward. The visualization of that process produced better success than just imagining the ball going into the net, for example. Now, here's where I think many people miss the mark on visualization. I don't believe, I don't know that there's actual data for this, but I don't believe that taking, 1,000 high school basketball players or college basketball players and having them visualize getting into the NBA would result in them actually getting into the NBA. I don't believe it works that way. I don't think there's data to support that. But if they visualize themselves successfully performing the skills, that would get them into the NBA. If they visualize themselves boxing out, opponents when they're on defense, if they can visualize themselves, shooting from the 3-point line, whatever the skill sets are, then the research suggests that they will improve those skill sets and be more likely, for example, to get into the NBA. So what does this mean for you? Does it mean that you should just visualize a life of thriving in order to achieve a life of thriving? Not necessarily. The first thing is, in order to visualize the process, in order for these basketball players to visualize the free throws, they had to know what it feels like to throw a successful free throw. They had to have some idea in their mind of what good form looks like when they're shooting a basketball, what it feels like in their body. And then they were able to kind of hone in and rehearse that mentally. So it is important to do the work. It is important to roll up your sleeves and to get busy so that when you're visualizing, when you spend time visualizing, you can, you know what you're visualizing. You know what the successful action feels like. Whether that's getting up in public speaking, whether that's competing in your given sport, whether that's playing chess, or whether that's whatever you have business-wise planned for your day for successful building of your business. I think the recommendation here, because the group that actually practiced also improved tremendously. They improved 24%. So imagine a group of basketball players who would go to the court and practice for a half hour every day, shooting free throws. That study from University of Chicago suggests that they would improve by 24%. Imagine that same group went home and for a half hour before bed each night would visualize successful free throws. The research suggested that group would improve by 23%. So a group that were to do both would likely, I don't know that you can add the percentages together and say, well, they improved by 47%, 23 and 24. But the idea is that they would probably improve better and faster than either group on its own. Because the researchers found from this study and others like it that mental rehearsal produces results similar to physical practice. So for folks who would go and do physical practice and then go home and visualize, it's like they would have 2 practice sessions, essentially, and they would make greater progress. So in whatever it is that you are pursuing, whether it's your education, whether it's fitness, whether it's meal planning and nutrition, whether it's some sort of athletics, use the power of visualization. It doesn't cost anything except for maybe a half hour of focus and effort a few times a week. Doesn't have to be every day. And don't replace effort with visualization. Add visualization to the effort you're putting in. And let me know how you make out. Let's see what the results look like. according to the research, you can't go wrong. So work on that. Let's practice visualization. Let's use some of our mindfulness and breathing and meditative practices to hone in on the visualization of what we want to achieve. And let's create lives of thriving. So until next time, I am Dr. Jerry Sunshine Novak, the biker psychologist, saying, keep growing till you're thriving. Take care, everyone.